All right, we're live.
Awesome.
There we go. Yeah, man. So, welcome to the Contagious Thoughts podcast, where dreamt realities are lived and where like-minded people share their thoughts. Why the name, you might ask? Because thoughts filled with purpose are contagious. And today, we have someone that I'm really, really excited to interview today. And it's been a long time coming because I had to go and have a kid and stuff like that. You know, just life stuff that happened. But I have today a gentleman who has created something that I truly have been impressed by. And what I learned is that this gentleman, while he was abroad in Chile, saw that there was a gap in the market. And this gap in the market was that there was no fancy artisan type of donuts, right? And he missed it, right? But while he was there, he met his bride, Annabel, and they together used his grandfather's recipe but perfected it to then meet this need that they saw in the market, or meet this gap that's in the market. And they did this, from my understanding, by selling out of a 1971 Volkswagen van, which I just think is, I don't know, pretty cool. And it's like I picture a hippie van, but just fully decked out with Donerds logo from the picture that I saw online. You know?
Yeah, it was a hippie van. I mean, It's exactly what you imagine. When we bought it, it was all painted yellow,
right?
Which is actually where we got our color from. People started to get to know about us because of the yellow. They call them combis in Chile and Brazil, but we know them as the Volkswagen bus, or the microbus.
I think that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Because buses are yellow, but instead you flip that into something that is super noticeable and marketable. And what I've witnessed is that this gentleman in front of me, that not only has he been able to create this brand, this kind of donut van, but also he's then moved to, along with his bride, Pennsylvania, opened up a shop in Jim Thorpe, and then now in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is the first shop that I got to experience, donut shop that I got to experience. And starting a donut shop is one thing, but I think what you've done is started a movement, because you have very loyal followers. And it's all built around, from my understanding, a concept of the science behind the perfect donut and cup of coffee.
Yeah, that's true. That's our tagline: the science of the perfect donut and coffee.
I have to go back and have the coffee now, because I had the donut, but I didn't have the coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I have in front of me someone that I truly am impressed by, that I'm excited to talk to today, Andy Underwood. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely, man. I do go by Andrew or Andy. What's your preference?
Andrew.
Okay.
Yep.
I will do Andrew. Awesome. I saved you in my phone. It was Andy in quotation marks. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So, absolutely, man. So I'm grateful that we get to chat today, and I usually have a lot of fun in my kind of research phase of the show, because I get to learn so much about people and what they've built and what they're passionate about. But I do have to ask, I'm curious, if you could just describe when the idea first popped in your head. What was that like? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, I mean, I had been living in Chile at the time for probably about 5 years.
Yeah.
And you get homesick for all sorts of things, especially food.
Yeah.
And so I hadn't had a good donut in a really long time.
Yeah.
So one day I just, I decided to make a batch of donuts.
Wow.
And, we made a whole bunch, Annabel and I, and we ate some, and then we realized we couldn't eat anymore. And so actually where we were at, we were going to visit her parents, who live at this really beautiful beach town in Chile. And
oh, wow.
So we went down to the beach with a tray of donuts, and we just, sold the donuts on the beach. So that was the first time that we actually realized that, Chilean Chilean people would buy a craft donut. All they had known up until then were Dunkin' Donuts, and they knew about donuts because of Homer Simpson. Wow. So yeah, those are really the two references that Chilean people had, to know donuts by.
Wow. That's hilarious. So did they see it more as like an American thing?
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Got it. So it's like, okay, I'm getting a taste of America.
Yeah.
Got it.
And I think, it was something special that, I'm obviously a gringo. I have red hair and freckles. Sure. And so, when they see me walking around selling, for them an American product, a donut, right. I think it just added that little bit of extra, I guess, authenticity to it.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, my dad is from Jamaica, and like Americans, like, oh yeah, I want some jerk chicken, or I want like a beef patty, or like, that's not even like the national dish or anything like that. Yeah. But it's just like what's really popular in America.
Yeah.
So I'm just picturing that, but like flipping it and putting myself in the shoes of the Chilean people, and what they would be experiencing, like seeing you walk around the beach with like a box of donuts, like, oh, let me get that. I want to experience that,
Yep.
I want a taste of that, literally.
Yeah. So I mean, we went down to the beach. It was just something we did for fun that day, and we sold, I think it was probably like 40 donuts within like 5 minutes or something.
Oh wow.
And so we're like, at the time I was I was teaching English, and I don't know, it was a little bit boring, and I wanted to do something different, and so it just kind of it was a good opportunity.
Wow, so I want to talk about that, because I feel like from the time that someone has an idea or a dream, that something they want to build, or just a concept, to when they actually take action on it, there's obstacles that can get in the way, and I feel like from my experience, that's like fear, or life circumstances, or resources, and those resources could be money, could be like knowledge or understanding of that thing, and I'm just curious, from the time that you had the idea to when you actually launched it and I guess built the business, like fully built out the business, what were the obstacles, if any, that you had to kind of either jump through or work around?
I mean, when we started the company, we didn't really have a lot of money to spend on it, and so basically we tried to keep overhead really low.
Yeah.
And by keeping overhead low, you're pretty flexible to do a lot of different things. And we just kind of grew a little bit at a time. So at first, obviously, Annabel and I were both doing, we had other ways of making money, and we buy the bus, and then we get an apartment in downtown Santiago where we could be closer to events and things like that. You grow it one step at a time. We made a partnership with a brewery eventually in Santiago. I guess for me and Annabel, it was all about keeping overhead low, trying to be super creative, doing something that nobody else was doing. And all at the same time still making money in other ways, and so we could there wasn't really much of a risk. It was mostly just all opportunity, at least in my mind. We were keeping the risks sort of low. We were spending a lot of time on this, but time spent in any sort of venture, I feel like you're going to learn something from it.
Yeah. And I guess if you're you still have your regular job, you're still I guess you were teaching at the time. Yeah. And that's why you went to Chile. You went to Chile to teach English?
Yeah, I went to Chile basically to have an adventure and to learn how to speak Spanish.
Okay.
I was able to go there with a program where I was going to be teaching English in Chilean, like middle schools. Their schools are kind of all together. They even have some elementary school kids together with like high school kids.
Interesting.
But the age that I was teaching was like 15, around there. But it was really just for me to have an opportunity to go and live a year in Chile at really low cost on my part.
Nice.
And so
Yeah, and so from the time that's pretty cool, and it's different. I guess, entrepreneurs or business owners, they have different experiences. Some people, it's like from the time that they get started, it's like it's a full grind, to where they're relying on that to sustain their family or whatever. Some people leave their jobs maybe even prematurely. Maybe they should have held on a little longer to their W-2 job. But it is nice to be able to build something while you still have revenue coming in, and just keep expenses low or keep the costs low. But I'm also curious, from the time that you, I guess, officially launched, you got the van, and then I guess you started, selling the donuts out of the van. Were you making them in the van, or you?
No, we were making them out of our apartment, actually. Okay, got it. All of our neighbors knew us, because of the oil smell and the sugar smell and everything. So we were making them in the apartment, taking the elevator down. We had the Volkswagen bus parked in the the basement parking lot of the apartment building. Yeah. So load up the truck, drive it out, and then we would drive maybe like a block away from our apartment building, which was like 2 blocks away from a major subway station. Yeah. And so after work, Chileans would be going home, and they would pass right by our food truck. Yeah,
that's smart. You would get me every time, dude, I'm telling you. Like, I would be a sucker for that every time. And if I was your neighbor, I'd be like, ooh, let me like taste test. You know, like if you have like a new recipe or like a new flavor, just let me try it out for you. I'll let you know how it is. Man, I put on a lot of pounds. But so from the time that you, I guess, launched, or you're now selling the donuts out of the van, to when you felt like you were fully on your feet, I guess, like consistent revenue coming in, was that like pretty quickly, like pretty immediately?
Yeah, it was pretty quickly. Yeah, I mean, it was, I wasn't getting paid very much at the teaching job that I had. And it was pretty quickly that Annabel and I realized that we could make a lot more money, with the business than the other things that we were doing. So within like a few months, we realized that.
Oh, wow. So did it take a few months to get like a consistent revenue stream, or did it happen a lot quicker?
So we I would say within the few months it just kind of kept growing. We were very noticeable. It was something unique. It was something different. So we had that to our advantage. And then we actually were lucky enough to get on a national TV program in Chile, and it was an hour-long special on us in the food truck.
Oh my gosh!
They came and they filmed all day, and the whole country saw that show. And so after we were on that show, it just kind of it blew up from there.
Wow!
And the only bad thing is that eventually we were just kind of fighting these food truck regulations all the time, getting tickets and stuff like that all the time, and it was kind of like baked into the whole the business. But it was becoming more and more difficult, and so the main reason we decided to move back to the United States is because we had this opportunity to move into a brick and mortar shop in Jim Thorpe, and I knew about Jim Thorpe from when I was a kid. I knew all the tourism that was there, and that it just kind of keeps growing. So it was just an opportunity that we had to jump on. So that's kind of, we went from the food truck doing really well after that program, and then just fighting too many regulations in Chile, and so that's why we decided to move back to Pennsylvania.
So do you still have any shop or anything in Chile?
Yeah, we actually have two. So before we left, we had about like 8 months to kind of like get everything ready before we left to come back to the United States. And we were looking for somebody to kind of keep the business running. And we didn't really know what sort of form that would take. And we put it out there on social media. We had a really good following at the time. And we talked with, I don't know, maybe like 30 different people, and eventually found this guy who was interested in opening up a donut shop. So it's actually it's a franchise. So there's 2 locations in Chile. It's different than franchising here in the United States. As long as there's a contract that both parties agree to, then you're good to go in Chile. And so we basically we own the brand Donerds Donuts, and we train them. We help get them started up and everything. And Annabel runs that together with the two other franchisees that are in Chile. We meet with them all the time. We talk with them all the time. But it's their actual own business that they run day to day. So Annabelle and I don't have anything to do with the day to day operations of that business. But just the company overall, like our general path in Chile, like we're talking to them all the time and planning things.
Got it. And so is it still similar to here, whether it's like, I guess they own the business, you own the name, and they just pay like a royalty or something to use the name,
Yeah, basically, exactly. Yeah, here in the United States, it's a lot more expensive.
Sure.
And there's a lot of there's a lot more that you. Like legal, there's a more intense legal aspect to it. You actually have to come up with a company manual for the the franchise, and it's it's probably about a $90,000 investment just to be able to do the legal side of starting up a franchise.
Yeah, my wife and I, we considered franchising a particular restaurant. And it was a lot, man. Like, well, I got to see the document that they provided us with, like the franchise document, and it's like a thick packet that you can like lift weights with. It's just like a complete manual to every aspect of the business, which is all kind of disclosures and all that. But I also am curious how you guys landed on that show, though. Like, how'd that come about?
Well, Annabelle has always managed the our social media pages, and she's always been very good at getting us recognition. And there was the show that we were on was basically about foreigners in Chile doing something interesting with food. Okay. So they saw, they saw me and they saw the Doughnut, and they decided to reach out to us on social media. So, they actually reached out to us. That's
crazy, man. Yeah. That's like that's like the perfect scenario, the perfect, setup, for someone who's starting a business, trying to get your name out there.
Yeah.
Man, if there's any sponsors or marketing people watching this, if you want to do the same thing, put this podcast on the show. I really appreciate that.
There you go.
So, oh man. And so I think that's really cool, especially that you and Annabelle run it together. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And my wife and I, we like when I stepped into entrepreneurship, it was together with my wife, and it was like adding a whole new dynamic to our relationship. You know, like it's like I don't know if you guys have kids, but it's like when you have kids and it just adds like another, I don't know, like leg to your relationship, to your marriage that you have to like figure out and explore. So I am curious for you guys, was that like an adjustment for you guys, or did this kind of come about pretty early in your relationship?
Yeah, it came about pretty early in our relationship. So when I met Annabelle, I was actually my job that I had besides teaching English was I had fallen into the job of running a pub crawl in downtown Santiago. And
pub crawl. Wait.
So basically, I was living at a hostel, and I would recruit other people who were staying at my hostel and other hostels to come on a pub crawl. And so I had to manage this thing. We started at a bar close by to my hostel, and then we hopped every hour to like 3 different bars. And
that's cool, man.
So I was. I was lucky enough to get that job, and I did that for a while, but you can only do that sort of job for so long.
Yeah.
So Annabelle and I met each other because I actually hired her to work on the pub crawl with me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so since the very beginning, she was helping me out with business ideas, with organization, and so honestly, since day one, we've been kind of doing business together.
That's really cool, man. That's cool. I think that couples that are completely strangers to doing business together, it's a much bigger transition. Like for us, it felt like I had to relearn my spouse in business, and we had to figure out our roles. Like we had to figure out like, okay, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are her strengths and weaknesses? To figure out, well, what are our roles in this?
Yeah.
It seems like at least before you guys were together, you guys already kind of had, I don't know if roles is the right way to say it, but how do you guys go about figuring out like who does what, like who's responsible for what are the roles?
Yeah. I wish I could say that we had some sort of, specific plan, but we both have fallen into the things that interest us the most.
Sure.
And the things, we're both pretty open about what we're good at and what we're not. And so in the beginning, it kind of, you knock heads a little bit trying to decide, am I going to do this thing, or are you going to do this thing, or two people want to do the same thing at the same time, and it's just not a good idea because you're going to waste precious time. So we ended up, I think, just over the past couple of years, really just falling into place where we need to be. And I think it's a little bit different too. I think Annabel would have loved to have been here doing this podcast.
Sure.
She's taken a role here, actually being a little bit more the face of the company, whereas I was that in Chile. For example, last night she was the judge for a pitch competition at Lehigh University.
Oh, nice.
And so she really likes to do those kind of things. But yeah, we've both kind of fallen into what we're more interested in doing. I think that's a good way to separate things, because then you're more motivated to do those tasks.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I love that. And it's like it reminds me of, with my wife and I, like we had to, it didn't happen just naturally. We had to like sit down and like figure it out, because we were like, this is completely new. This is strange. But I think that it ended up, because we were figuring out what our strengths and weaknesses were, I think that kind of led to us naturally doing the things that just come more easier, or come more naturally to us.
It is good to have things written down. Like Annabel and I have done that, and I would say like 80% of the roles kind of just fell into place, but those last 20% you kind of have to talk about and you have to figure out, and it is really, really helpful to have things written down, because when I start my day in the morning, I have a list of things that I'm going to go after, and she has a list of things that she's going to go after. It's very clear. We can get a lot more done that way.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. And I'm curious too, how, I mean, this, you created this from scratch, from the ground up. How much do you feel like you think about this? Like, do you think about this, like think about Donerds like nonstop? Do you kind of like turn off at 5:00 and go home, and like it just, the switch is flipped and you just kind of move on with your personal life?
I mean, we try to stop talking about anything business related at 9 p.m.
Okay.
But like, Annabelle and I kind of stay up late. We normally go to bed around like midnight. So, and inevitably we're always going to, talk about business. It's honestly, it's like all day, every day. There really is no stopping. You try to put boundaries, and it's for us anyway. And I think it's a good thing and a bad thing, but like for us, it's impossible to put boundaries. We don't have kids either. So like, we don't really have to put those boundaries. We try to fit in, our side projects and our hobbies whenever we can, I love to go skiing. I love to go mountain biking. Annabelle loves horseback riding, things like that. But, any other space we fill in with business things, honestly.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that that's because of how much you, I guess, love what you do, or are passionate about what you do. And was food or culinary, like, was that something that has always been interested to you, or did it just kind of fall into your lap when you stumbled upon like Donerds?
I mean, specifically donuts. I've always loved donuts. So when I was growing up, my dad would take us to church, and then after church, probably in order to make us like going to church more, he would take us to a donut shop.
That's cool.
So we kind of looked forward to that every week, my sister and I. And so I've always loved donuts. Annabelle and I we'll try anything when it comes to food. Really, we'll go into New York or Philly and we try a bunch of different things, but we've tried every single donut shop. Like, if you name a donut shop, we've been there.
Been there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. I feel like I need to go on like a donut. You did like a pub crawl. I need to do like a donut crawl.
Yeah, we've thought about doing something like that.
If you do and it becomes public, please let me know, because I'm so down. I'm so down.
Yeah.
And so the reason I asked about, I guess, just your ability to turn things off is I find that like this podcast, like I'm really passionate about it, and it's nonstop. Like there's not really like a day that I don't think about it. I'm not working on it. But it doesn't, for me, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
And like, because I enjoy it, you know, I know it's kind of cliche, but it's true for me though. And I feel like, some people call it like a passion project, or I just think it's putting your heart into your business. Like you could start a business and it's just purely for financial gain. Or you can start a business where you actually love the thing and it's your heart is fully in it. And I have experience doing both. And what I'm doing here is I don't know if it's the former or the latter, but it's the one where my heart is in it.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how you handle like setbacks or disappointments, you know, in your business because your heart is in it. It's not, you're not emotionally detached from it. Like it's just a money thing. So when things don't go as planned, or there's like, you know, major challenges that you're facing, like how do you handle those things because you're so invested?
Yeah, I think when we didn't have as much experience, like in our first couple of years, you freak out about everything.
Yeah, sure.
Every tiny little thing seems huge. And then, you know, the further you get into running a business, I'm guessing with any business, pretty much with anything you do in life, things are going to just pop up. Right. Do you know what I mean?
Yep,
and and you start to realize like, oh, this is just part of the game. Like you have to be able to deal with things that pop up.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, this bad thing happened to me. It's, you know, you wake up in the morning and, you know, whatever, I don't know, like, we've had some issues with people coming into our donut shop and for whatever reason clogging up the toilet with paper towels, just like stupid things like that, but it costs you like $700 to get fixed for no good reason. And so, you know, you start the day with something like that and you could be like, why did that happen to me? That's such bad luck. But then I think the way that we've learned to look at things like that is, you know, this is a cost of running a business. These are things that happen when you run a business. People quit, people do whatever, you know. So I think we just kind of take it in stride now. It took a little, like maybe like 3-4 years to learn that. Yeah. But, you know, if something pops up, you think, you know, there are no problems. There's only solutions.
That's actually an interesting perspective.
Timothy Leary quote there.
What
Timothy Leary.
Okay, there are no problems, only solutions.
That's
an interesting perspective, because it forces you to not just sulk and hyper focus on the problem, but instead flip to, okay, what am I going to do about it? How do I solve it?
Yeah. I mean, you turn it into a game almost. Like, you know, Annabel and I like problem solving. So problems come up and it's not a big deal. You're like, okay, how can I solve this? You almost turn it into, I like to turn things into games. This business is, you know, I don't want to, you know, seem like I'm not taking it serious, but, but in a way you kind of, if you take it too serious, I think it could be detrimental. So we like to turn it into a game, something that's fun for us. And I mean, we're working with donuts and coffee. So it is fun. You know what I mean?
That's really cool. You said that, like not taking it too seriously, so it like sucks the fun out of it. And I love that, because, you know, I love to create. I'm a creative, and I'm looking at your social media page and your website. Like, I'm assuming you guys enjoy creating too, because you guys create masterpieces like every day, and you know, if it's Easter, if it's, you know, you play on the holidays, or, you know, Halloween, whatever. And I'm just curious, like, what your creative process is like, whether it's, you know, collectively or individually, but like what your creative process is like, where your ideas come from. I even saw, you guys had some chucks that you, that were like the Donerds. Like, you know, it's like, these are all creations. They start up here, and then we do something, we take action, and then they become reality. Yeah.
I would say a lot of that just comes out of Annabel and I's own interest in things. You know, she's very creative, and is always coming up with new donut flavors, things like that, ideas for videos. But just traditional checklists. So for example, every day we have a checklist, come up with a video idea, come up with a post idea, and you just throw them onto another list. So you end up having this huge list of ideas. Some of them are throwaway ideas, maybe they're not so good, but at least you have a list that you can go through. We also really like to ask our staff, and we have more lists in the donut shop on the point of sale system. There's like a Google task list where they can come up with flavor ideas. So, really cool. We can kind of go through that and see what they came up with, even customers. So really we're open. We listen to everything.
That's very smart. I guess when it comes to creating, like I've always loved to create, but I more recently have embraced, or I guess embodied and leaned more into that part of me. And I find other people's creative processes like fascinating, like where do you get your ideas from? How do you come up with your ideas? And also, what do you do when you're like starved for ideas? Like you're trying to create, but you have like creator's block, or you can't think of ideas. I don't know if you guys ever experienced that, but it seems like if you're pooling the people around you, like your staff, and you're bouncing ideas off each other, I guess you might not run into creator's block. Or do you?
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, me personally, all the time. Yeah. But like, like you said, I mean, I just ask people. I ask people what they think. I ask our employees. I ask customers what they think. Exercise is really big for me. So like, if I'm feeling like I can't think of anything, or even if I'm just overloaded with business stuff, I'll go for a run, I'll go for a bike ride, I'll go ski, whatever that is. Go hang out with some friends and drink some beers or whatever. Just try to relax, and then you come back a little bit fresher, I think.
Yeah, I love that. Like it's like creating space, or like stepping away. It's like hitting the refresh button. Yeah. And you come back with a fresh mind, a fresh outlook. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely helps a lot. So how I found Donerds is I was walking. There's an Indian restaurant that's like next door to you guys, or maybe down the block from you guys. And I was walking to get me some Indian food. Sometimes I buy a meal, or I just buy like appetizers. I'm like, I'm just going to buy a bunch of apps and go pick them up. And I'm walking there, and I pass by your shop, right? And there's something about the presentation. Like, it's the colors. Everything looks very clean. It looks kind of like, I used to live in Philly. It looks kind of like hipstery. Like, it's like very like modern and sleek. And anything that's like that, I feel pulled in. But the branding, it's like very strong, and all that. It seems to be intentional. That it's meant to grab people's attention and be like welcoming, like people want to come in, like it's like inviting. And so I'm curious about your process, the process that it took. I'm sure it changed from the van to a brick and mortar shop, but creating the brand, and I guess what that process was like for you guys, and what you did to make it something that will pull people in, or attract people, or invite people, because marketing, branding, it's like we're all suckers to it. Like, I'm a huge Apple fan, and Apple doesn't pay me, but I'm a spokesperson for them. Like, I market them because they've sold me on a brand, or like a lifestyle even. So I'm just curious, like what that process is like for you guys, and just building what you've built.
Well, for the shop here in Bethlehem, it was nice because we already had the first location in Jim Thorpe. Yeah. Well, really, we had the other location in Chile also to look at as well. Yeah. And so you kind of, you build what you would like. That's what Annabel and I did. So we've been to so many different coffee shops. Where Annabel grew up in Santiago, Chile, where we started the business, there's actually a bigger population than even in New York City. It's a really big city. Oh, wow. And so that's where she grew up. And for her, especially when we first moved back to the United States, we moved to Jim Thorpe. It's a very small town with like 6,000 people, a population.
Yeah, beautiful though.
Really pretty. The majority of the people living there are probably retired. And so, she really likes to go and take a day and go into the city, and I really like it too. We'll take our bikes in or whatever. We'll take our scooters in. We have electric scooters we'll take in, and we just hop around from coffee shop to donut shop and
that's so cool.
bars and stuff like that. And so we had a really good idea of what we liked. And we said, we have an open space that we can turn into anything we want. We're just going to turn it into what we like.
Wow.
And so, when we thought about customers coming in, we've been customers in coffee shops and donut shops so many times, and we would take notes when we go out. We'd pick up on little things that we like, little things that we don't like. For example, like our donut display. Of course, it's the centerpiece of the whole donut shop.
Right.
And most donut shops will buy a pre-made display, and they're ugly, or it's back behind the counter and it's just ugly. So if you want a nice donut display, you have to find somebody who can build one for you. So that was a very complicated task to try to figure out here in Bethlehem. But, we knew we wanted a really nice donut display, of course. And so, like, these are things that we learned from going to other donut shops. We could tell which ones were custom made and which ones were, bought ahead of time.
Wow. I'm going to be looking now that when I go to donut shops.
Lots of thought went into that. It seems like a very simple design, and it is kind of a simple design, but a lot of thought went into actually how to display the donuts.
Well, it worked because I walked past. I was like, oh, a donut shop. I love donuts, so I'm definitely going to try it. But then I looked, and it's like, kind of like, you have a dining room table, and there's like this centerpiece that's in the middle that just pulls the whole room together. And the donut display case is really the centerpiece of the shop, like just like you described. And being a person that appreciates things that are aesthetically pleasing, I figured that it was intentional, but just hearing your process behind it is very interesting. Just how intentional it was.
Donuts are an impulse buy almost always,
Yeah, straight up. Yeah.
And so, we want our donuts to almost look like little toys when you go into the shop. We want them to look like little toys, like almost look fake. Like they're so like pretty looking, they don't even look real. And so, that was something we really thought about. Obviously, like if we have really big windows looking in from the sidewalk. From the sidewalk, you can see the display, and the display is all made out of glass. So from the sidewalk, you can see the donuts. So it's all part of that kind of that impulse of, oh, I see donuts, I'm gonna walk in there and grab some.
It's genius, man. It's genius. It's genius, and it's genius because I'm thinking about it. I'm like, it worked.
That's what happened to you. Yeah, we got you.
It literally worked. You got me straight up. You got me. Like and so of all the shops, which one is your favorite?
Voodoo Donuts, I would say.
Oh wait. Of your shops. Of
my shops.
Yeah, you got Bethlehem, Jim Thorpe, a food truck, 2 in Chile. I'm sure that they all have different places in your heart for like different like stages or seasons in your life. But I'm just curious, like which one, I guess, has the most pull over you, or I'll just say your favorite.
I can't really pick, they all have their things that I like about them. Jim Thorpe is just beautiful. I was there this morning. It's beautiful. It's nice and sunny out. It's always fun to go into Jim Thorpe. My staff there is amazing. They're all super fun to hang out with. So, I love going to Jim Thorpe. Here in Bethlehem, we basically set up our ideal little coffee shop. We have our espresso machine here, which we don't in Jim Thorpe.
Okay.
We don't have espresso drinks in Jim Thorpe. We just don't have the space for it, and it's all about, getting in and out as fast as possible there.
Sure.
So it just didn't make sense. So we have, our coffee lab basically here.
Yeah.
And, I take the donut truck out all the time too, which, is really cool. I've been to, warehouses. I've been to, music festivals. I've been to all sorts of different cool places. Yeah. So I don't know. I can't choose. And then the Chilean ones are, it's just fun. We do go visit Annabel's family. And so, yeah.
Speaking of, you mentioned you go to music festivals. I saw that there was, I guess, like a film festival that was up in Jim Thorpe that you guys went to. Is this like a passion or a hobby of yours, like film, or?
Yeah, Annabel and I love film. we're definitely very critical of modern movies. Like we can't find anything we like. There's a few out there that we do. We like really old school movies. The Jim Thorpe Film Festival is amazing. It happens in April every year. It just keeps growing bigger and bigger every year. I highly recommend going to it. It's over the course of, I think it's 5 days. It's one of my favorite events of the whole year. Actually, last year, Annabel's brother had a film in the Grindhouse block. I don't know if you know what Grindhouse movies are.
No.
But so they have this block of short films, and it starts at midnight. It ends, I think, at like 3 a.m. and it's on Saturday night. They're basically just like the craziest. They can be violent. They can just be very, trippy. They can be just out, very out there films. That's part of it. I highly recommend going.
Oh man, I'm gonna put that on the list. It's every year.
It's every year in April. Yeah, it's coming up. Yep.
Ooh, okay. My wife's birthday is in April, so
there you go.
Good,
Yeah, if it lines up, I think it's it's the second week of April, if I'm not mistaken.
Dude, either way, I wanna go out there. Like we've been out there a couple times, and it's gorgeous out there. So it's an easy trip, and it's beautiful, so it's worth it. I'm gonna read a quote, and it's a quote that the listeners have probably heard me mention or say more than once on the show. There's a reason why I keep on coming back to it. I think it's a cool quote. But I'm going to read it, and I just want whatever your first thoughts are, or whatever the thoughts come to mind as far as like what this quote means to you or what you take away from the quote. All right, here it goes. It's be yourself so that the people looking for you can find you. And it's a quote by Arlan, I'm probably saying her name wrong, but Arlan Hamilton, or it could be Arlen Hamilton. I'm famous for butchering names, but again, it's be yourself so that the people looking for you can find you. What comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean that's how I found my wife.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's cool. The better friends that I've had in my life. It's just because I'm being myself. You don't want to pretend to be somebody that you're not, because then the person, it's not really fair even to the other person you're trying to become friends with or be in a relationship with, because they're not really meeting the real you. And what's the point? 5 years down the road, especially in a romantic relationship, 5 years down the road, they're going to figure it out eventually.
Right,
so you might as well just be yourself from the beginning.
That's real. How do you feel like that weaves into like the Donerds donut story?
Yeah, I think it goes back to when we were talking about setting up the donut shop. Annabel and I, we do what we like. We sell. We don't buy cheap coffee. We eat more of that cost on our own because we want to drink really good coffee all the time. We don't skimp out on ingredients. We make sure our donuts are extra filled because we say, like, what would we want to eat? Wow. So really it all just comes back to creating an experience that we're happy being in every day. If it's going to be your business, if you're going to be, like we were talking about, focused on it 24/7, make it something fun, make it something that you like. So I think,
yeah. As you're talking, like some people say things and you're like, okay, it sounds good. But as you're talking, like, I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because it's literally in every piece of your story. Like literally, like, it's like, okay, like how you met your wife, but also like how you stumbled into this business as well. Like you loved donuts, you started making them. And then people wanted them. You started selling them to people. And then here we are, And so it's like literally you were doing the things that you loved. And the people that were looking for you, they found you.
For sure.
I didn't know I was looking for you, but clearly I found you because I was walking past your beautiful display case. And, I found it. So I think that's awesome. I think it's critical, not just for like personal life or as human beings, but also in business and entrepreneurs. And this podcast is meant to inspire dreamers to make their dreams into a reality. And I think it's so important to build things that are authentic. Like we can think of a million business ideas that can just generate money, and I'm not saying something wrong with that. Money, we need money to live, but if it more so resonates with you to build something that you truly believe in, which is what resonates with me, it's like, just don't be afraid to be authentic. You know, is what I try to tell people and try to live out myself. So I appreciate that a lot.
Yep.
Yeah. And with that, let's transition into the no regrets segment of the show. Come on. Hey. So the no regrets segment of the show is where myself and the guests get to think back and reflect on the episode and answer the following questions. Number 1, is there anything that you said that you regret saying? And number 2, is there anything that you did not say that you wish you did say? And with that, let's dive in. Before we dive into no regrets segment, just a couple of super quick reminders. I'm going to link Donerds, Doughnut in the show notes. Please go follow them on Instagram. Check out their website. Follow them on any platform that they're on. I think that they might have been on Facebook, potentially TikTok. Check it out in the show notes. Follow them. Show them some love. If you're in the area, if you're in Pennsylvania, Bethlehem, Jim Thorpe, please go and check them out. And shake hands if they're around, and also follow us on social media. Like and subscribe this if you're watching on YouTube, and on Instagram. Follow us for updates. We put plenty of videos up there, even upcoming collabs. We announced that. With that, let's dive into the closing segment of the show. So, for you, these are the final 2 questions. Just anything that you said that you regret saying during the show?
No, not at all.
That I like that. And why is that? Just curious.
Well, even if I did regret saying something, I wouldn't tell you because then you'd know what it was.
That's good. Okay. Cool. I asked these questions because I think it tells me so much about people. And I always find it interesting people don't have any regrets, and I love to hear the reasons why. So thanks for that very honest answer. And for me, I don't think that I have any regrets. Nothing that I said in the show. There might be some like production things that I'm gonna nitpick, like with myself, like, ooh, I could have made the lighting here, I could have made the sound. Like, there's some production. I'm always gonna nitpick myself. I'm always trying to get better and better. But anything I said in the show, I don't have any regrets today. So I think we share that.
Cool.
But there's no regrets. And then the last question, is there anything that you did not say that you wish you did say or had a chance to say before we wrap up?
Well, I guess for anybody listening who's in Pennsylvania, we have a food truck and we're actively, filling up our calendar. If you want to reach out to us, if you want us for a wedding, if you want us for, Employee Appreciation Day, any sort of festival, we would be more than happy to head out there, bring you some amazing donuts and coffee and French macarons as well.
Oh, man. Wow. I'm sold. So I didn't know that you guys did like events like that. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I knew that you did events like you mentioned the event that's going on tomorrow, but like weddings and
we put it on pause for a little while because we were setting this up and it just took so much of our time. I just bought a drone and I plan on taking it with me to all of our events, filming the event. I don't know, maybe it could be part of a whole package deal. We'll see. I'm just playing with it now.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Yeah. Well, dude, Andrew, I really appreciate you coming on the show, man. This is a fun conversation.
Yep.
I learned a lot from you. I think that the listeners are also going to learn a lot from you. And your story is inspiring, man. And when I go to the shop, I think I have time to swing by before you guys close.
Nice.
But whenever I see Annabel, I'm definitely gonna thank her for letting us borrow you for this time, but also for building this together with you, man. You guys are an inspiration.
For sure.
So thanks for coming on the show, man.
Of course. Thank you.
Absolutely.